fourth verse says, sometime later he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistine went to her and said, see if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver. Verse 16 says, with such nagging, women do that every now and then. Oh, I just lost the whole house. I'm just reading the Bible. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was sick to death of it. Men, do I have a witness in here? Amen. So he told her everything. No razor was ever been used on my head, he said, because I have been a Nazirite dedicated to God from my mother's womb. If my head was shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines, come back once more. He has told me everything. So the rulers of the Philistines returned with the silver in their hands. After putting him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair and began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Verse 20 says, then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He awoke from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him. It's a dangerous thing when you don't know that the Lord is not with you. Then verse 30, Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than while he lived. I want to preach from this message. Repeat it with me and say, a fatal attraction. A fatal attraction. Brothers and sisters, in this life, I've discovered that everything that seems good to you isn't necessarily good for you. There are some things in this life that you may find yourself drawn to that are not meant for your good. Even though they may seem enjoyable to us at the time, they may in the end cause us ultimate destruction. Furthermore, it does not matter who you are. Doesn't matter what your stature is. For no one is exempt from being caught up in compromising predicaments and questionable circumstances. As I examine this text, my mind goes back to the late 1980s, and I'm reminded of a movie that had all of America and probably the rest of the world talking. This was a movie that changed the way in which we looked at both relationships and fidelity. This was a film that had married women daring their husbands to even think about being unfaithful. This was a film that had even the toughest, most masculine, manly man scared to even look at another woman. It dealt with the danger, the act, and the consequences of becoming involved in an extramarital affair. The movie was called Fatal Attraction. You all remember that? Some of you young people may not remember that movie. It starred Glenn Close. And, well, they did a remix of the movie with Beyonce. I forget the name of it. They called it this time. Anybody know? Obsessed. Yeah. That was a take on Fatal Attraction. And it explored just what can and oftentimes happens when a man decides to slip, dip, and shake his anyway with another woman. We know the story. And let me suggest to you, beloved, that likewise, those of us who are in the household of faith, if we're not careful, can have the proclivity to end up in our own spiritual fatal attraction. if we're not careful, we can end up in the same predicament as the central character of our text. For Samson illustrates to us a prime example of what can happen when we allow ourselves to be attracted to things that are not in our best interest, and the effects this fatal attraction can have on our lives. I believe it was James that said emphatically that when lust have conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown or when it is finished, produces death. So this lets us know that the attraction to the vices of the enemy is one that is deadly. It's one that can be fatal. Now, the word fatal is defined as something causing or capable of causing death. Something or someone causing ruin or destruction. It comes from the Latin word fatum, which means deadly or destructive. In other words, something fatal is something that is deadly, that is disastrous, that is destructive and or lethal to you. And subsequently, the word attraction is the act or capability of attracting, the power or quality of attracting. Something that attracts you allures you. It charms you. It fascinates you. It appeals to you. It tempts you. Have I hit your street yet? It entices you. It calls to you. You understand what I'm saying? Sometime late at night when you ought to be asleep, the attraction to what's in the refrigerator calls your name. Y'all looking at me funny. Yeah. That turkey sandwich just calls you. Come and get me. Come. Amen. Amen. It entices you. It calls you. Food calls you. Clothes call you. Come on, you know you haven't paid your rent. But them shoes are tough. Y'all ain't gonna help me preaching here now. You know you got a light bill due. Even got a gas bill too. Telephone disconnect. Waiting on your next paycheck. But that dress is hot. You just got to have it. Am I in the right house? It attracts you. That car calls you. Amen. You know you can't afford a car note that high. Y'all ain't gonna help me now. You might as well drive a hoopty and have some money in your pocket than drive that nice new car, nice shiny car that you can't even afford. Because actually, let me just take a slight detour. The purpose of a car is basic transportation. It's to get you from point A to point B. Come on, the purpose of a car is not flossing. I wish I had somebody in here. It's getting a little warm outside now, and now folk are out flossing. Amen. How you gonna live in Reed Village and drive a Jaguar? I'm just wondering. I'm just trying to figure this out. I don't understand how you got a Mercedes 700 series, but you in Bergen Circle. Y'all won't help me here. Y'all won't help me preach in here. You in the projects on Rifle Street, but you got the latest BMW. Come on. A car is to take you from point A to point B, not to have a diamond in the back, sunroof top, dig in the scene with the gangster lean. Thank you very much. Things attract us. And one thing that we have to understand is that the enemy ain't no fool. He ain't no fool when it comes to the flesh. You see, he knows what turns us on. He knows what makes us tick. He knows how to get our goat. And he'll put it right there in our face and say, go on and take it. You know you want it. He offers us a fatal attraction. He knows exactly what our weakness is. He knows Melinda likes chips. So we send somebody over there with a big bag of Lay's because you can't eat just one.